This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah. I'm here with Jennifer Nagel, and we're going to talk authenticity. We're going to talk about how to show up as your true self, your best first impression. And I know it's going to be a blast. We have barely got to recording because off camera, we were just like little girlfriends who hadn't like seen each other in 20 years. And so I know this will be a great conversation as well. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Hey, Sarah, I'm doing really great. And I absolutely enjoyed our warm up conversation. And maybe after this, we can go back.
I literally was like telling her my deepest, darkest secrets. It was
Same. All those things that we were told never to talk about: politics, religion, family. Yeah, we hit on all of that.
We hit on that, yes. and we did it authentically, right? Like it was our authentic selves, which is probably what tipped it off, as we knew we were going to talk about what it means to be authentic. Not that being authentic always means telling your deepest, darkest secrets, but in our case, we've been following each other for a while. We kind of thought this is a safe space to land. So, well, Jennifer, I asked you what your favorite thing was to talk about, and you brought up this idea of authenticity. So, why did you say that? Well, why is that your favorite thing to talk about?
Yeah, most people know me as a connector, and they call me the connection queen, or Jennifer, you're a business matchmaker. Or, what kind of special magic are you doing? And the answer is, nothing. I think the biggest thing that I have done and why people call me a connector is because I just started being myself. And that was huge for me. Your audience can't see me, but I am a Black woman. I, for 15 years, worked in a higher education administration environment, which was extremely by the rules. There's a lot of internal politics. And so I never really felt like I could show up as myself. I always felt like I had to be on, I had to look a certain way, talk a certain way, not to talk about certain things. But when I became an entrepreneur, one of the things that was really exciting for me was the ability to finally, let my hair down and be myself and come to the table as Jennifer. And Jennifer is funny and weird and tells bad jokes and sometimes does her hair and sometimes doesn't, you know. And I think that particularly after the pandemic, we all were very reflective collectively as a culture, as a world, really, about who we wanted to be. And, we had we had live examples of life is short. And I want to be able to be myself. I want to connect and be with and spend time with people that I actually care about. And I want to be my honest self. And so that really reflected in my business as well. I actually was doing something else and then realized it's like, you know what, this is what I'm good at and I like it. I don't love it and it's not 100% me. It's not all of me. And so I changed what I did in my business to go from being a fitness coach to being more of a community facilitator for women in online business. And one of my values is being boldly authentic because I think we need that. We absolutely need that in order to just connect to humans. Because if you look at everything that we see, it's like perfectly curated and airbrushed. And this person says this thing the right way. And if they say it the wrong way, then there's like 16 articles written on it. And it's like, you know what? That's just not who we are. I mean, we're regular, normal people. We have flaws. We we're not perfect. But why don't we just show up that way? And I just found when I finally did, I had just the greatest enjoyment out of my business. I had some wonderful friends, people that I've really connected with, and it just has made such a positive impact in my personal life, in my business life, and just how I get to show up every day. So that's my favorite thing to talk about.
I want to reflect back on a couple things I heard from you. So, two things when we talked about being authentic, right? So we started this conversation with I turned on the camera and I had just gotten a spray tan, and then the ring lamp made me look like a bad angel, not like a good one. It was just like a shiny like a bad angel, right? And I was like, oh dear, I'm gonna have to move. And so there's that piece, and I was like, sorry, Jennifer, I'm just gonna have to move. And there's that piece of authenticity. And then we got to the, joking about the deepest, darkest secret piece of the authenticity. But you mentioned something that I really want to point out, especially to women. And you were able to just then say what you were good at. You didn't apologize for it. You didn't minimize it. You didn't say, well, it's not a big deal because everybody's good at that, right? You really owned those strengths. And in a world, obviously, I did today, in a world where we sometimes we think about authenticity as just talking about the worst things that have ever happened to us. And there's also a much where I want to take up more space in people's lives is being able to say, this is what I'm good at. Jennifer's a connector, right? She's like, you didn't use the term networker, but you're able to create these webs of networks and these communities by truly being you, by truly being yourself and showing up as that. Like that's a superpower, right? And so being authentic is also knowing what those superpowers are and being able to say them.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. A couple weeks ago in our community, we often invite like workshop speakers in. And there was a particular speaker we brought in, and she was phenomenal. And we were like, wow, you're so great. And she said, I'm really great at what I do. And it was so good for her to say that, because I think all of us are taught, like what you're saying, especially as women, this we have to be humble, and we don't have to announce to the world. And I definitely think there's a difference between bragging and being a jerk about it versus just stating facts. And the thing is, I love that she stated a fact. I'm very good at what I do. And I'm like, yep, I can see that. And I'm good at connecting with people. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but this is the thing that my God-given talent that I just do. It's fun for me. I enjoy it. And I love teaching other people how to do it in a way that makes sense for them. So yeah, taking up space and being honest about who you are, good, bad, and ugly, I think is a key part of connecting in an authentic way. It's not just the vulnerability. And that's, I think, what you were saying. It's not just this is when my whole life fell apart and everybody needs to know that. No, sometimes it's like, oh, I love pizza. Here are my badass dogs. It's like, here's what I do. It's just
Well,
being who
and if
you are.
and if I may, I think you'd agree with me on this. There are a lot of women who are currently getting famous talking about what I call wearing trauma on your t-shirt, and it's kind of like, and this bad happened to me and this bad, and I'm just authentic and I'm this. And it's like, man, if we're going to really address the glass ceiling, or guys getting paid more than us, or guys having more power in some circumstances than us, all our like most powerful, most famous women can't be the ones like talking about like their life's falling apart over and over. It's concerning.
I feel like it's something we're being taught, and I'm coming from an entrepreneur perspective, because I was even just writing an email about this whole concept of know, like, and trust. So we're always taught that people do business or collaborate with people that they know, like, and trust. In order to know, like, and trust you, you have to be open and vulnerable. And I feel like that's a little bit misinterpreted. And I always talk about reframing know, like, and trust, because I think the concept is true, but knowing doesn't mean knowing everything. I mean, I'm still a private person. You don't see a whole lot about like my children or whatever, because it's mine. I'll refer to my children all the time as here's my nugget, because I'm still all like, crazy people are all over the place. I don't want you to know my child's name. So knowing is familiarity, and you can build that in a lot of different ways. Liking is, instead of thinking, oh, they like me, it's like, does this person bring you joy? And trusting doesn't mean that I've told you all my deepest and darkest secrets. Sometimes trust means integrity. Is this person going to do what they say they're going to do? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? So, how people have interpreted, I think this is where the challenge comes in. Know, like, and trust is like, oh, I have to just like put myself out there and expose my entire life. And then you see, at least I've seen people online then having these huge regrets that their entire life is open, and then they had a horrible breakdown, and then they delete everything and hide in a corner. And I think that as long as what you're sharing is truly who you are, like the well-rounded you, and not just the here's the part of me that I'm going to share to get more likes or engagement on my post, then whatever you share is what you share. Now, for some people, they might be a little bit more on the woe is me side. For other people, they might be kind of wackadoo and crazy and fun. But I think if once people understand know, like, and trust, and reframe that to familiarity, joy, and integrity, you get to see a lot more of a well-rounded human, a real and a more authentically rounded human.
Mhm. And you even dropped a little hint about, yes, I like pizza, right? And I don't know if anyone else caught that. Okay. But that's, if I'm a pretty good connector too. So, when people say, like, okay, say I'm on a date and I don't want them to know everything about me, right? Or in a work situation where it's not appropriate for them to know that, like, I just started antidepressants 3 days ago, right? Like that, those are like over the line things that you do not have to bring in as a part of your first impression to be authentic, right?
Yes.
So far from what we're talking about. But you can, I always tell people, like, you can drop in a story about a childhood pet or something from so long ago that it doesn't mean they can, like, Google you online and become, a stalker, right? It's like, oh yeah, I used to have, well, I was telling my son recently, we had this cat, we named it Big Mama because we could never, like, get it fixed before it was pregnant again. And it had so many, she had cats in trees, she had cats, and it was like these, it got to the point that the poor kittens were, like, deformed. Like, they would have little, like, tripod legs and would, like, walk on the front legs. They're little, like, it's a terrible memory as a kid. And as a
this is the first Big Mama, the pregnant cat with deformed kittens. Like, this is something that I definitely need to, like, that I will always remember about you.
It's so true. So true. Gray cat. She was gray. She had babies in trees. And so we would all, like, we kept taking her to the vet. We'd be like, okay, finally she stopped nursing, right? Because you didn't want to get her fixed and her babies die. So then we take her to the vet and they'd be like, she's already pregnant again.
Big Mama was active.
Mama, she's living the life. But that's a really funny, that's obviously a funny one. I was telling my son about that yesterday, so it's what made me think about it. But the connection piece, it's like you feel like you know something about me, and it's true. And we laughed and we connected, but it isn't like there's no way that can come back to really hurt me.
Be authentic with boundaries. That's what I hear you saying. And I think that's the misinterpretation. Like, in order to be authentic, you have to be like, blah, lay it all out there. It's like, no, I just want, my thing is, if someone were to come to my house right now, personality wise, mood wise, way that I look is going to be pretty similar to what you see in other settings. Now, I may not talk about the exact same things. You may not be privy to certain things in my life, but if you know me, you like, Sarah, if we talk like 6 months from now, or I see you at a conference, you'll be like, oh, Jennifer, and then I mentioned Big Mama, the pregnant cat. But but I didn't tell you that I was on antidepressants or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, authenticity is often just what is the word that I was looking to use? It's misappropriated. I don't know if that's the right term, but
I agree completely. And especially can go from the workplace, coaching people on, like, well, yeah, why'd you leave your last job? Well, because my boss was a bitch, right? And it's like, whoa, that's like, whoa, okay, true or no, right? That's not the brand. That's not the impression, brand in a very healthy way. And I talk about personal brands. It's like, yes, Coca-Cola, when they say it's refreshing, well, it actually is. It's not good for you, but it doesn't have to be a brand that's a lie. It can be something that is true. And humor is kind of one of my brands, which I've gotten in trouble for. People sometimes they'll say, doesn't she know she's talking about serious things? Why is she, like, not taking this seriously? And I'm like, oh, okay, you can be as sad as you want. Like, you go do you. Like, you go be sad. Like, I've already done it.
You bring up such a good point, because I think, in terms of talking about connection and authenticity, that you want to connect with people that you're supposed to connect with, which means that you have to be, if you're funny and you have, I make really bad jokes. I have lots of pop culture references. That's just who I am. And I would like to attract people who understand and appreciate that, because if they don't, then either they're going to be disappointed, I'm going to be disappointed, or I will put on some sort of fakeness and then I'm not being me. Sometimes I think we are so scared to really open up and be ourselves because we've been told, like, here are the rules for what women should act like, what they should look like, what they can talk about, what's appropriate, what's not. And, when I was, here's another little nugget. When I was in therapy in college, my therapist told me, gosh, you have a lot of rules for yourself. Where did this come from? And it made me really think about, gosh, I do have a lot of rules. Like, I'm not allowed to do this, and I couldn't date someone who did this, and blah, 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 blah. And I realized once I examined what was really true for me, what I believed versus what other people told me I should do. Gosh, just the weight of those other people's expectations melted away. And then I just started really having fun. So, yeah, there's no should. The only should is do the thing that you should, that you feel that you should be doing, and don't worry about what everybody else is telling
My mom had someone who told her, where is it written? Things
you.
like, oh, I can't date a guy who, we'll say, has a tattoo. I'm just using a silly example, right? So I can't date a guy who has a tattoo. Where is it written? Where's that written? I can't date a guy who has a child already. I can't date a guy who, my husband always says he would never want to date anybody in the medical field, just kind of hospitals and stuff. That's just his thing, right? But it's like, where's it written? Where's it written?
Right.
Where's it written?
Yeah.
Whatever that role is, kind of goes with what you're saying.
I love that. I'm going to write that down. That's where it's written. I wrote it down. No, I'm kidding.
So Jennifer, we covered a lot. So I really want women to have permission to say the good things about them, right? We talked about that. We talked about, the balance and boundaries of authenticity, that it can mean inappropriate settings, like, okay, we talked family, religion, and politics right before, this call. And we are also, we're coaches, we're in that space. It's kind of a different world. That is not a conversation I would have with someone I've just met at the grocery store.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
And then we talked about, that being authentically you is in the shoulds and not following any rules. Any other points from our conversation that you just want to really like stick in with people and with our listeners?
Yeah, I think ask yourself, am I having fun? Because I really truly believe that when you set those boundaries, when you think about authenticity, when you take up space, you have fun. You are stepping into your perfect self. And that perfect self is going to be happy and joyful, not all the time, but that's the test. It's like, if I'm doing this thing, does it feel good? Does it feel right? Does this feel like who I am? And if the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, then, reflect on that a little bit and figure out how to do it. And it's when you start truly being that bright light that is you, you're going to attract other really cool bright lights. You may not know where they come from, you may not understand, but stop forcing it. Just be yourself. That sounds really trite and old school, but yeah, be yourself and the right people will be connected to you.
When I was dating my husband, because I do talk a lot about dating, and I said, if he's nice to me, I'll keep moving toward him. And if he's not nice to me, I'll move away from him. And it was just this crazy simple, like when talking about being yourself or something, it's like when you say it out loud, it seems so simple. It's like, well, surely it's going to be harder than that, And that was my process for dating. And then just as you were saying, whether it's, I hire out my spreadsheets and hire out a lot of my detail work because I'm just not, can I do it? Yes. Do I feel exhausted and overwhelmed? Am I more irritable? Yes, right? Some people are really good at that stuff. And they feel like, oh, look how clean and beautiful. It's such joy. I'm like, it's terrible, right? And just something like that. It's very similar to the concept. If the task is nice to you, move towards
Move
it.
toward it.
Move away from it, or move into the things connecting, that you're so good at. So why don't you tell people where they can find out more about you and your work?
Well, thank you, Sarah. If you want to learn more about me and my work, you can go to jennifernagel.co/links. And so it's not .com, it's .co/links.
Connector.
No. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to steal it.
Told you I was funny. I'm just kidding. I mean, not really. Because I'm going to say nice things about myself. I'm very funny.
You're awesome. You're funny and you're lots of fun. And I'm going to say I love spreadsheets and I am that nerd and I absolutely own it. It makes me feel good. I
I'm
love
jealous.
columns.
I'm just jealous. Like, I'm like, man, to be good at this, what a superpower, And then people are like, you're good at plenty of things, Sarah. I'm
We're
like,
supposed to all be different and shine in our own ways. That's what makes it so much fun. And just because you don't like spreadsheets doesn't mean we can't be friends. It just be, oh, you don't like Excel? Bye. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
panic attacks.
No, and gosh, and that's why the whole authenticity piece is important. You got to shine and you have to be you because there's no one else who can do that job in this whole world. So there are things that are supposed to happen because you have your talent, your personality, your whatever. And to not do that is like depriving yourself of happiness and depriving the world of, a great thing that should be happening. So girl, get it together. Okay.
Jennifer Nagel, thank you for helping us get it together today. You guys check her out at jennifernagel.co, as in connector/links, right?
That's right.
I got it. And thank you for helping us on our journey to becoming toxic person proof.